Namaskar and good morning and good evening to all our viewers and to all my panelists. This is Vandana Jhingan from Global Governance News. Today we are going to discuss about the film that is going to be releasing today, means starting because it's already started March 11th, 2022. Pre-screening has already been done in the United States of America. Chicago had the pre-screening on 12th of December, so 3 months just before. And I do have a panelist from Chicago, Illinois, Abhishek Ganju. We welcome you. Renuji Mattu from Wisconsin, which is a neighboring state of Illinois. And Swapna Renaji from Maryland, which is the DC area, Washington, DC. Important for people to know. It's all the action happens over there, what all is going on. And later we'll be joined by Abhinav Shirina, who was one of the coordinator for the Chicago release. Thank you, each and every one of you, for your precious time. And I really appreciate that. It's a daytime here. So for viewers to know, because everybody has taken a time off from their schedules, because this is very important to talk about it. I'm going to start with Abhishek Ganju. Abhishek, let's hear from you. We just finished something in our Hindi segment about for the mass reach of people. But when we talk in today's time, if we want to reach to our global audience, it is very, very important for us to discuss in the language that we've been talking about. You and me, we were together during the screening when it happened in the Naperville area in the Chicagoland. And but it is not about the airing of the film. We know almost each other more than 2 decades here in Chicago. I've been working very closely with Kashmiri Hindu community when it comes to, on a various different occasions, number has been sometimes 5, 10, 15, or 20, means 25. It didn't matter. We had a convention also of the Kashmiri overseas Hindus in Chicago a few years ago. What a beautiful culture. I mean, means you carry wonderful food. And the beauty of Bharat, that the nation that we all come from, every few kilometers that you travel, as like food is different, language, the dialects are different, and a little bit facial, features are different. And when we used to be very impressive about the Kashmiris people, we used to say, they say typical nose hota hai, gore bahut hote hain. Bache, I'm born and raised in Delhi. So Vivek and Pallavi has taken an initiative to work on this film called Kashmir Files. The first scene, before even he thought of the film, to be honest, you have discussed this with me in person, how it used to be. So let's hear from Abhishek about the scene in the film about the cricket, because he has in real faced it. That what you're seeing in real, he has faced that in the real life.
Thank you, Vannaji, for inviting me on this panel. To answer your question, every scene in the movie I can relate, what has happened to us back in late 80s and that time in 1990. So the very first scene that was shown in the movie, Kashmir Files, that reminded me of what used to happen to me as a kid when I used to play cricket with other Kashmiri Muslim folks there. And it was like a divide, right? We are part of India. Kashmir is a part of India, and we were supporting Indian cricket team. And then they would not like that, and they would say, "Hey, why are you supporting Indian cricket team? You should support Pakistani cricket team." So at that time, I used to feel, why this differentiation? We are part of the same country. Why are they talking like that? Why are they fighting with us over the cricket? It's just small thing, right? Cricket, it's not a big thing, but they want to support somebody, that's fine. But fighting and arguing and creating that kind of a difference within the people of the same country. So I felt really touched by that scene. I was like, this is the very first scene. And then, of course, there are a lot of intense scenes later on in the movie, which made me cry, definitely. But I would say that this really touched my heart because it reminded me of my childhood when I was there as a kid.
Let's hear from you again, like, what all, because these are, they always say, as a child, what is implanted and imprinted in your mind can never fade off, no matter what. Even like somebody, I work with Alzheimer Foundation, I work with dementia patients, like on very close, like, even then they know what happened during the old time of theirs, like, as in, because they forget what they ate 5 minutes ago, but what has happened. So I can very well imagine the trauma that means it still means, and nobody could do anything at that time. That is an irony. I mean, like,
Yeah, it's embedded in my brain. I get nightmares sometimes, what happened to us at that time. And I just get up during the night. I get up and then I start thinking about it. So this movie, in fact, scratched that kind of a thing again. It came back in my memories. And I feel so sad. I watched this movie there, and every scene in that movie I was thinking about. It was not just a movie for me, it was like the factual representation of what happened, right? So every scene that was showing in this movie, I would think about what had happened to us at that time. I could relate all those incidents, whether it's a cricket incidents or whether it was killing of my neighbor who was gunned down by terrorists, or it was like throwing stones on our homes. We would turn off our lights and stay inside because we were surrounded by majority population there. We were just minorities, right? And when they had guns with them and they were threatening us, what could we do, right? Like, so all those memories got refreshed in my mind. And I still, after that movie, every day I'm kind of thinking about those things again. What happened 32 years ago came back again. And yeah, it's horrifying.
coming to Swapna Renaji, as let's hear from you. Have you watched the film?
Namaste, Vannaji. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I had the privilege of watching the film during the pre-screening on December 3rd in Maryland, DC area. I have watched the film.
But for you, this bringing into the real, but you guys have faced it on a real life. I would like you to share your experience for a larger audience, please.
Sure. I have lived through those eerie times, and my grandfather was shot dead at broad daylight. So if somebody comes and asks or questions, and you'll see all these reviews that these are not true stories, they need to come and talk to the victims and ask us, because I am the one who saw my grandfather on the pyre after he was shot with 4 bullets at close range, Justice Neelkan Ganju. It brings back a lot of memories, like Abhishek ji was saying. Small subtle things that we did not understand, or we kind of turned our head away, that thinking, nahi, this is just, I think I'm over imagining, or things like that. Like when we used to go to college, we had this person, if we didn't have the dupatta cover our head, hit us on our legs and say, in Kashmiri, kalas pe thav dupatta, means cover your head with the veil. And everybody used to say that, oh, it's just some crazy guy out there, just ignore him. But when you go back and think about it, it was not a crazy guy. It was a totally planned, what they were planning to do to Kashmir. We've experienced utter horrors, bombs being thrown on my grandfather's house. We are being stoned. My parents had a practice in a nearby village, and it's just, it makes me numb to think about it. This is a guy here who is in the outdoor patient, and my dad is kind of attending to him because he's a physicist, and all of a sudden he's all praises for my dad. You're my savior, you gave me medicine, I'm fine. And all of a sudden there's a mob right outside our house. So one of the employee goes and close the main gate, and the same guy who was singing praises of my dad, we spot him in the crowd outside throwing stones at us. So this movie brought back a lot of terrible, terrible memories for me. My dad, who's now 80 plus years old, was in the theater with me, two seats down, and Vannaji, I could hear him. I could hear the tremor in his voice, and like Abhishek ji was saying, we could relate to each and every instant. Just to give you an example, my dad was like, and I had to say, Dad, you need to keep it low because everybody's watching the movie. And everybody around me said, no, don't worry about it. Let it be. He needs to let it go. It's been over 3 decades now. He goes, I know him. This was Mr. Ganju. I know this place. This was in Habakadal. Like he could relate to each and every instant, and I could not stop him. And I used to hesitate to cry or something, but now I don't. Shameless plug here. What this movie has done for me and my community is that I'm no longer ashamed to, shed my tears, or because every tear I shed now is acting as a balm for me, because the world knows now, and hopefully nobody even dares to ask this question or make this comment, did this really happen?
Thank you for sharing. I'm going to, I just want to introduce my co-host Kumar Rakesh ji from Global Governance News. Welcome, Kumar Rakesh ji. And Abhinav Rana ji, he was instrumental and coordinator of the Chicago release, which happened on 12th of December. Right here in Chicago. And Kumar Rakesh ji is from Bharat, India, New Delhi. And the pre-screening for the journalist has been done like 4 or 5 days ago. So he was with Pallavi. And so I said, we have to do this show, means for sure. He said, okay, but due to commitments, so like, our profession is as such. So I'm just going to be conducting this. Swapna ji, means when you... Thank you so very much. Yeah. Yeah. So, Swapna ji, you just said that because I always say, माँ तभी दूध देती है जब बच्चा रोता है. Like, there always the baby has to cry so that mother can give, because otherwise we'll not even know. So there is no harm in letting people know about, because it has become a trend in today's time, Abhinav, that the people, those who are culprits, they are trying to portray themselves as a victim, which is very, very big irony in today's time. Like, you come and bash me, and after that you start crying. So then they start setting up a narrative which is not right, because and our Sanskriti and our culture has never taught us kiro, because like you have to, and that is what we are paying the price. And I just conducted a show before this also. There's so many mini Kashmirs now in Bharat itself, like, and it is a global phenomena that we are seeing it. So we have to be, and I always urge people, come and speak out, come and speak out. It is not a language which is a barrier. Sometimes without even speaking, you can let the people know about it, because one thing I would like to say, because all on these panelists of mine on this show are Kashmiri Hindus, I'm just telling you, I can correlate with your pain. I'm just telling you, I'll be pained with your pain, but your pain which it will show, that has to be your pain. आपका दर्द सिर्फ आपकी ही आंखों से लोगों को दिख सकेगा, मेरे आंख से नहीं दिखेगा. This is very important. So we have to come out, and we are seeing this, like how this congressional hearings and all are happening, like in spite of the fact, like, they're talking about dismantling Hindutva, those conferences and all and all. What are you talking about? Let's move to Renu from Wisconsin. Renu, let's hear about your experience with this movie in person as well as in real life.
Namaskar. See, the movie, first of all, I don't look at it as a commercial movie. I look at it more like a documentary, because every single fact, every single scene in that movie is absolutely true to its core. There is no doubt about it. The pain that we felt, the pain that our parents have been going through, our grandparents have been going through, cannot be measured. This cannot be measured. And it is very well portrayed by Anupam Kher. He's a great actor. But at the same time, the impact that it left on the younger generation, I don't think we can ever, compensate for that. I was a little kid when all this happened, but I have very clear memories of what happened. And it's ironic that still in my dreams, I still get the nightmares of somebody throwing a grenade, somebody killing somebody, getting caught in the excuse me, crossfire, because that's exactly what happened to me. I was going to the school and not knowing what was going on. I just was too bored at home and wanted to go to school. Schools were closed. And I started walking, and there was a bridge, Habakadal Bridge. The bridge on one side, it has post office. I don't know if that is still the case, but it had, it's a very famous bridge. Post office was on one side, and the other side, there were two, Banamola and Nai Sadak, two, it would go, there was a kind of a T point. And I'm coming from the Banamola side, and when I reached to the bridge, I'm walking very little with my backpack. I could hear the, I mean, of course, now I know those are bullets, but that time I had no idea. And suddenly somebody grabbed me from my back. Like, he basically grabbed my backpack and picked me up like that, you know, like a chicken. He picked me up, and I remember him putting me down. I thought he's trying to hurt me. He was actually our security forces, one of the guys. And very quickly I realized that, okay, this is something going on that I shouldn't have been a part of. That crossfire, I hear those bullets in my ears all the time, believe it or not, I hear them. And this, another army personnel, he kept my head down because I was trying to lift my head and see what is going on. He kept pushing my head down. And I think that's how we stayed for next hour or maybe two. I have no recollection of that. And then they walked me home and other things. And there were grenades thrown and the crossfiring was going on. This is just one very, very minor incident, I am telling you, because incidents like these happened, I don't know, n times in a day with almost every Kashmiri Pandit on the face of earth who was in Kashmir Valley at that time. So anyone who claims that it is not based on truth, please come talk to us. We will tell you what is based on truth. First time in the entire Bollywood industry, first time somebody has, has dared, I should say, to portray the truth. And truth is not out there. I'm telling you, it is not out there. There is a entirely different narrative that is out there. Today, Kashmiris are not who Kashmiris are. Like, we are Kashmiris, but we are not, our culture is not there. If you Google a word Kashmiri, you will see everything that has nothing to do with Kashmiri or Kashmiriyat. So there was always this factor of, I don't want to go very, I don't want to go so far back in history, how it started and what happened. But I will say one thing, that our community, Kashmiri Hindus, we have been very welcoming, very loving, and very forgiving for the entire history that is known to mankind. And because of this nature, I think they kept torturing us every opportunity they got. And I'm talking about the terrorists. I'm not talking about, see, there are good people and bad people everywhere. I'm talking about the real terrorists who really tortured us. Like, my parents had to send my daughter 3 a.m. in the morning with a random person in the truck, because night before at around 9:30, there were a few terrorists who knocked on our door and told my father that they wanted to talk to my older sister. Imagine the plight of that father. Somehow they got spooked. We were in a security area. They still managed to come in. Somehow we spooked them. They got spooked because everybody came to know that there is this group of terrorists that has come into our where the safe zone was. and they had to run away. And actually, my father knew them because he had taken care of them and he recognized them. He told him, "Aren't you son of Mr. So and so? And what are you doing there?" I am the one who. So my father had to do with medical profession. So he actually brought him in this world. So there is so much of that pain, that unspoken pain, and that feeling of helplessness that we felt for 32 years. There was nobody who could listen to us. There was nobody who was there to say, "Yes, we understand what happened to you," or "Oh, did this really happen?" Yes, every single thing in that movie that is portrayed, absolutely. I can tell you one thing, Naji. When I started to watch the movie, I was watching it, and gradually, I think within first 7 or 10 minutes, I couldn't contain myself. I stuffed my mouth with a. I was wearing a scarf, and I had to stuff my mouth with the scarf because it is something that you have kept closed inside you, and suddenly somebody opened that can of worms, and now they are all over you. You cannot control it. Every scene in that movie, you have to understand that Vivek and Pallavi have done amazing job, touching so many lives in a very small span of 2.5 to 3 hours. But you have to understand there is way more than what is shown in this movie. Way more than what is shown in this movie. People nowadays, people know what happened in Syria, and people were very involved, and they were hurt, and they couldn't understand how somebody can be so cruel, how somebody can be illogical, and how somebody can actually hurt others who are living. Trust me, way more than this happened with us 32 years ago in Kashmir. There was no social media, and thanks to this beloved Congress that we had, because they were friends, Congress and National Conference was friends. Mr. Mufti Muhammad Said, who was a home minister back then, he was a friend. They didn't do anything. As if we were not there, as if we never existed, as if there was nothing wrong that was happening, when the truth is everything that was happening was absolutely outrageous, wrong, and torturous. And I don't think in this lifetime I think I can vouch for my other fellow community members. I don't think we can erase that from our mind. Ever. I don't think we can. This community that was very peace loving, this community that believed in knowledge, giving knowledge to everybody, welcoming everybody, it shouldn't have happened with this community. It shouldn't have happened. My house was burnt 4 times. 4 times. Imagine the plight of those people who were inside that house. And you can't go out because they are waiting. Nothing can be done. You are so helpless, and your government, they are not doing anything for you. I think it was only one person, Mr. Jagmohan, who actually took this on him, and he was faced with a lot of hostilities. He had no support from government whatsoever. You should read his book, My Frozen Turbulence in Kashmir. He has actually, in that book, there are the letters, the original letters. There's a copy of the original letters that Mr. Jagmohan had been sending to the central government, to Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. And the responses that he used to get, either no response or, okay, we will think about it, or we will deal with it. We all know who dealt with what. We all know nothing happened. We all know. See, people say that, oh, not so many Kashmiri Pandits were killed. Well, you have to understand that it's a minority community. It was already being reduced to what it was. And among that minority community, you are killing more than half of the people. Do the maths, take out the percentages, and see who was killed, who is still being killed. We cannot forget the recent killings of teachers of this panchayat. There was this panchayat person who
Ajay Panditaji.
Correct. Thank you. Ajay Panditaji. He was killed in most horrific, brutal, and coward way. Terrorists are not the brave people. They are the cowards. They are those cowards who, in the garb of darkness, behind your back, they hit you there. They take your young girls. Age was no bar. I have to tell you this thing. Age was no bar. A girl who is barely 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they don't mind raping her. Terrorists don't mind raping her. And it goes all the way to 40, 50, 60. They don't mind doing that. And that is done in the name of Allah. I don't think Allah would ever tell them that, okay, go rape a minor girl. That is a duty that you should be doing because your birth has been
Renu, actually you are eyewitness of all the incidents, that incident, and that should not be tolerated for any human being on the
absolutely
earth.
Not. Absolutely.
So just how just you are narrating, just all are just start weeping now. Whatever, just maybe the Notary made a movie on 7th of March in Delhi. We just said about movie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points just to see the facts. We have researched all the docs, facts, and try to put as it is before the viewers. Just you analyze.
It is actually, yeah, it's not actually an exodus when we talk about it's a genocide. 500,000 people within their own country becomes refugees.
More than Madanaji.
That's what I'm saying. More than 500,000 people, refugees.
My question to Renuji also, Abhinavji also, and Swapnaji also. Bandanaji had just already organized a show in Chicago. We have seen just with the Culture Ministry and others on 7th March with all the team, Darshan and all the there. Whatever, just see. Actually, you like people now come out, whatever they're trying to make the narratives. Whatever this is all the bundles of lies. They're trying to make the truth.
Absolutely. You're absolutely
what
right.
Should not be. Now trying to encounter one by one how they have just brutally murdered our brothers, sisters.
Yes.
And we're just all the fellow Bharatiya living.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying the Kashmiri Pandit and Kashmiri Hindu who make the narratives. Why not Kashmiri Hindu? Why Kashmiri Pandit only? As just Vivek narrated in film, most of the moderate Muslim also had been murdered. Most of the Baudd and Sikh also, who just opposes the nuisance.
Lot of them, yes, absolutely. There were a lot of Kashmiri.
But it is trying to make, as you say, but my request to all, and just from Bandharaji also, now, whatever just Vivek has taken the bold step, now I am just how I counter on the social media and 3 counters full of they're all the Muslim and Hindu. I'm just trying to read the one line, and the Hindu people, he is a professor, and already in a university. I told him, shame on you. And he just flew away. No, we should not discuss it. Why not discuss it? Truth must prevail.
I think it is time we discuss everything.
Why is speaking from just I saying that I'm just there's 3, 4 lines. I just try to counter. So just I'm share with all how I can name it. How we should expose those so-called Hindus in the name of secularism. Yes. Bandhanaji say secular, not secularism. And just what he says, because some political party, he says, just focus on today. I counter him. Can you? I just send the clippings of the Kashmir files. After they directed, can you list the 5 things BJP has done for the Kashmiri Pandit and the rehab in Kashmir in 8 years? Then I replied, long list. We can discuss all input with the personal chat, not a group. Will give you all each and single inputs. We see, but see the great movie, the Kashmir Files, with the open eyes to narratives set by the international, sitting in our internal system still now, and politics too.
Yes.
And singing always a new song with the new inputs from the traitors of the country.
Absolutely.
And outside also, still they are active. So please, real facts and truth for the old civilization, more than 83,000 years of Sanatan Hindu Bharat. And that was published in the great paper, the Hindu, that anti-Hindu paper, The Hindu. I have all the research for all the
Yes.
things. And then why just focus not the 83,000 years fictions has no historians? The bloody nonsense. I can name it.
See,
The
the
professor-
problem is that we cannot look at this movie, as I said in the beginning of my
And will not write anymore. Then he just tried to escape. No, long. Kapil Sharma. Who is bloody Kapil Sharma?
well, it's a shame that Kapil Sharma
Who is Kapil Sharma?
refused to. He gives platforms to all the movies which are
And this long
Virtually
post I'm
nothing.
trying to edit. I trying to edit. Will not write anymore as a standing totally against the communal hatchet. I can sir, you may be for the communal hatchet, but it is a massacre and the many moderate Muslim also and Sikh and Baud also. And they're brutally murdered.
If
My
I,
humble request, please accept the truth. Then we hatred is spread, all communities dies, factory, blah, blah, blah. Then I tell him, so because I'm not political parties and no schools, then I tell only accept truth and reality.
yes.
To whom may concern, as you know, how Article 370, 35A is scrapped. This is a matter of only 2 years. You're talking about the 8 years. You have know the history on trying to make the narratives. Shame on you.
so
And
I,
the
We
20
will
case
always have such people around us.
already settled there. So then already this type of people, this long list, these type of people are really those name of Hindu. They're shame on their
Absolutely, absolutely. These are the people who we cannot actually put a
I'm
lot of
trying to
effort
make the other
into.
narratives.
Because if somebody is closing eyes, that doesn't mean it is dark outside.
It thanks Pallavi. I just thanks Pallavi. We and Vandana is just working together with the Pallavi and the Vivek and with the World Hindu Congress. I thanks Pallavi for the nice 2-line dialogue. You go, tum jao, Kashmir jao, Krishna Kumar ko. Sarkar badli hai, system to hamara hi hai.
Exactly. She has actually done.
That should be counter,
movies
Venuji,
of-
Avinavji, Sapnaji. That should be counter from the any part of the world. What we are doing should be continuously. You should write President of India. You should write Prime Minister. You should write the all consular of Jammu Kashmir, not even Kashmir. And those just for taking the benefits last 2 years, thousands of crores has been distributed in this new Kashmir.
Very true.
And
so
what
if
are
I
the
can
problems?
add
Jammu-
just one comment, I do have
Is reading the 2 books on the Kashmir.
I do have a
1,000
hard stop, Rakeshji. I just want to make one
Please,
comment.
please.
We appreciate all your
I
comments.
am just sorry. Just I try to provoke all of you. What you have done, what you should do, what you are not done. That's my intention.
No,
Sorry.
absolutely. I think what this movie has done for everybody is it's initiated the comments, the conversations that you just said. This was an inconvenient truth, politically inconvenient as well on every social or political platform. This was a fire nobody wanted to kind of warm their hands with because they would burn themselves, right? But what this movie has done, it has brought the truth, honest truth, brutally honest truth of Kashmiri Pandit, Kashmiri Hindu genocide and exodus to the world. I can tell you in the pre-screening in DC, we
sorry,
not
Sapna, sorry.
just a moment, just no, one second, no,
Exodus word should not use, please.
No,
this is totally genocide. Sorry.
It is genocide. I'm not refuting that. It is. What I'm saying that the word refugee that was being used should not be used at all as well, right? So the impact what this movie has done, it has brought this inconvenient discussion to the mainstream right here, and it has brought it to the dining tables of every homes.
Absolutely.
At the pre-screening in DC, we not only had Kashmiris and Indians, we had Afro-Americans, we had people from Laos, we had people, we had young students who were doing like PhD in psychology, African-American, Caucasian, from Vietnam. And there was one thing that they were saying, this thing happened within the last 32 years. If we are talking about, Armenian genocide, this thing and that thing, and all of this has happened, why has nobody taught us that? So we are really thankful to the Kashmir Files team, Pallavi ji, Vivek ji. And there was one question that I have been asked: why were you silent so long? What kind of a, the word propaganda that really, really annoys me is being used as it's related to this movie. Is like, how come now you started talking to Pallavi ji and Vivek ji? And my answer to them is that each and every scene, like Renu ji said, is absolute truth. And some of these scenes have been like toned down as well. And why we all, the 700 plus victims who decided to talk to Pallavi ji and Vivek ji, is because when they came and visited all of us in our comfort zones, in our homes, they did not come and question us. What happened? They did not come and question us. Did this really happen? Why are you saying this? They just said, I'm from my personal experience, they just sat in the chair in front of me and said, just tell us how you're feeling. Nobody had showed that kind of empathy to us before. We have been questioned all along. We have been countered and questioned and been told that nothing like this happened. That's why I think
it has
been
forward as
from now on. See,
that happened.
that is what, because the future generation, because this is just the beginning. He cannot compile almost like when we're talking about 500,000 plus people in 2.5 hours, but at least should be appreciated, because there is what, like we have seen the hypocrisy of Bollywood. Do we really depend on them, to be honest? Because if he tries to make the files, we have so many files that he can work on it. He can work on Godra files. He can work on Delhi Roy files. He can work on so many, but this has to stop somewhere. And here, I'm going to say, because it's a complete failure of the federal government of India at that very time, the state government of Jammu and Kashmir at that very time, elected officials, then law enforcement, judiciary, as well as media. But what has happened, we cannot, but at least because so that it should not happen to anyone else in future, that is what we have to take up from here now. So let's go to Abhinav Rana. And Abhinav
Vandana ji, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I just take your leave. I do have to go.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you. We can do many shows on this actually, and that will also be less. Abhinav ji, when we decided, it was you and Rakesh, we have taken up an initiative, and I was with you when we were having a dinner together. You shared the story of yours in person, your grandfather and stuff. I would like you to share that and then talk about the airing part of it. And from now on, and this is what my question going to be from Renu, what is needed now from now on, further?
So Vandanaji, first of all, thank you for inviting me. So I'll start with one poetry. My grandfather was a very famous Kashmiri poet. The Khulus was Zar, Sridhar Raina. But I will say poetry that Zare Zamir rahe na tahe asman rahe, wo mulk aur tha hum jahan rahe, jab dil jale to kyun karna zuban pe aaye ah, नामुमकिन है कि शोलों से तब के दुआ रहे. हमारा ये जो शोला था, that whatever happened with us was buried for 32 years. It never came out, right? Nobody heard us, and we shouted, we yelled, we cried, but nobody heard us. We were made fun of. I always say that. I still remember we were saying, "Oh, you ran away, or you were sissies, you're darpok," what we call in Hindi, or it's Jagmohan who forced you and gave you an aid of outside Jammu of 600 rupees or 500 rupees. I don't know how much it was that time. And we left our home, ancestor home, 3-story.
Sorry, actually, just we forgot the taking the break today. Actually, how just the program is going on. So, actually, with the real facts, just to take a break of the 5 seconds, then you'll continue accordingly. So nice. Thank you. Thank you. Just welcome after the break, Abhinavji. Just to carry on, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I was saying was, so nobody heard us, right? We were made fun. We were made fun saying that, oh, you just came because Jagmohan made you. Nobody leaves house. Nobody leaves their their property, their ancestral property, their house, just because somebody is giving a 600.
उनको बेनकाब करके पब्लिक समझाया जाए फिल्म के रूप में.
That is really sad. And then nobody even knew that what happened, because nobody wanted to highlight our cause. Then movies were made always, right, about Kashmir. But in that movie, the fact was never shown. It was always around the love story, right? We all know that. That was not the fact. Now, after many years, somebody came forward, did a 4 years of research, talked to 700 plus families, like I was there, Renu ji was there, and many of us, and got the fact and ensured and did a very minute level research. That's what this filmmaker does, Vivek ji. And he came up with this fact. And then we are now questioning that. And there are people saying that's not true or it's a propaganda. Shame on them. When Schindler's List was made, when those movies on Jews were made, pianist, did somebody come forward and say, oh, this is a propaganda? Nobody. Even the German people who did that, they promoted it. But unfortunate for our country today, that there are people who are seeing this. Rather than seeing that, let's bring it, let's hear that plight, that genocide that happened within our country. Rather than feeling sorry and saying sorry to us, they're saying somebody's putting a stay, and they're working day and night to put a stay against this film. Shame on them. If you are a nationalistic, if you really love your country, come forward, watch this film and face it, and face the truth. And you don't have the guts. So it is a true fact, it's a true story, and every inch of this film is true. There's nothing which is not right in there. Face it, watch it. It is something you should know. And that's I mean, I have a lot to say. I never cry, no, but I cried in that when I watched that. I couldn't control myself. I lost my uncle a month back. You know, he lived his life in tents. Imagine a person who never thought of money as an issue. He has a huge property, huge land, everything. And one fine day he has nothing, he's living in tents. And then because of lack of proper health care, right? He didn't know he died of a sudden heart attack, right? And I cannot even tell you, I mean, how I feel about it. Last when I met, his hands were all bruised up. I said, Uncle, what happened to your hands? He said, yeah, I work all, I fix AC, air conditioners and all these things, go homes and fix it. And I felt like, wow, for living, this is what he was doing, right? And the same person who had never thought of this, he had a 3-story house. He had huge land, apple garden, cherries garden, rice paddy fields and everything. And all of a sudden he has nothing. So there are many, many stories that so when somebody says, oh, this is a propaganda movie, I keep watching. I try to do a tweet back to them. I don't want to get into the political side of it, but those people don't have guts. Vivek and Palviji could have easily made a love story. You have to keep that in mind.
Just like the Vishnu Pandit. Just like what have they made?
Pick up a chocolate hero and a heroine and made a beautiful love story shooting in Kashmir with a beautiful scenery, but they did not do that.
You're right.
They wanted to bring the fact to the world, and we should credit that. We should come forward, watch it. That's what we all should do.
You know, the hypocrisy of Bollywood, how much they have earned by shooting in Kashmir before this problem. There was a movie named Bemisal. It is Amitabh Bachchan and Vinod Mehra and Rakhi. Wah, ye Kashmir hai. And when you talk about it, and those same people, I'm not talking about Vinod Mehra ji because he's not alive. Amitabh Bachchan had no guts to put 2 lines, like, you know, forget about 2 lines, 2 words for this particular film, that one should be showing, because that is called the height of hypocrisy. And we feel these
I
people
call
are
him, I
abused.
tweet him, I write him. I call him, I tweet him, I write him personally. We have worked together in an institution, at a media institution. He is the most corrupt person in all manners in the world. That is called Amitabh Bachchan. Same as Jaya Bachchan also. What
So
they
that,
said in parliament, भस्म कर दूंगा, नाश हो जाएगा बीजेपी का यूपी में. What happened?
that
Just
is
see.
very.
See, I think we
Nobody has courage to say about
stop
Amitabh Bachchan.
expecting from people that they are going to speak up for us, or they are going to understand the pain we went through, because they won't. If that was the case, we would not have been invisible for the past 32 years.
Absolutely.
When we were living right in that country, we were the most ironic thing is we were refugees in our own country.
Right.
And our plight did not end when we left Kashmir. That was just the beginning. Our plight continued in not so hostile, religiously hostile situations.
Renuji, the irony still continues. You are showing, because I always say a pain is a pain.
Yes.
If I pinch Vandana or if I pinch Muhammad, the pain is a pain. You are showing a pain of 1,000 miles away, a bacha being like separated from a family,
Yes.
going on a street,
Yes.
and a media 24/7 trying to get the emotional, and then the photographers, those who are clicking those kind of pictures, they are looking for themselves to get awarded and rewarded, where our own people, that is where the biggest irony is, because it is called, as Kumar Rakeshji was saying, the narratives, how good we are in setting up a narrative. Abhinavji, this is very hard to say. I am being Kumar Rakeshji with this community working almost 2.5 decades. No matter, even if it's 5 people, no matter it is 10 people, 15, snow, cold, I am been always there, because, living in Delhi, I have felt the pain when there was tent issues too. You can very well imagine how this super bazaar in Connaught Place, Delhi area, when you guys were allocated the small little kona, and because this is not that you have forgotten, because they always say, जुल्म जो करता है वो तो पापी है, अगर कोई जुल्म देख रहा है और चुप है वो भी उससे बड़ा पापी है. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
I always believe in that.
But there are no any single comment from any Muslim leaders on this movie.
Yeah.
No from the Congress leaders. And they are just like the so-called fake.
No, because Maharashtra, somebody has
nonsense. Where the time?
Maharashtra, somebody had guts to ask the court to because this movie should not be released. This should be banned.
There was a PIL that was
3 cases have been filed in Delhi also.
Although it is dismissed.
Yeah, but somebody has a guts to do that. I mean,
yes,
imagine.
because you will find such people. See, I'm telling you again and again, you will find such people. The simple fact that we were invisible and unheard for the last 32 years, that is, expect that to the fullest extent. But what we have to do is that we need to understand as a community, as a Hindu community, as a human, first of all, that
you're right.
we are not invisible. We are here. We lived through that pain, and we are way stronger than we were at that time. I remember that helplessness in our parents' eyes, who had ailing old parents to take care of.
Nobody held the gun after that from your community. They are still doctors. They are still engineers. What else do you want? They are
exactly.
Education, imparting knowledge has always been the most important priority in any Kashmiri Pandit.
That is exactly. I want to add to that. When people say, and those guys, what we call the liberal people, they say, oh, there this thing happening, that thing happening, atrocities happening in Kashmir and all that stuff. I want to ask them that before this 89, 90, when this happened, what was happening there? What atrocities were happening there? Kashmir and J&K was the least poor, I'm not saying rich state, least poor state in the country.
Absolutely.
There was no poverty there.
There was no
When
poverty.
I came out, I saw this is what is called poverty in the other parts. There was no poverty. It was a subsidized state where everything was subsidized, from the commodity, basic commodity, to petroleum, everything was subsidized. The government was pumping and doing everything possible for them. Nobody picked up guns, right? But then, because of the influence, obviously we know where that comes from, they were brainwashed, they picked up the guns. What do you expect? Somebody picks up a gun and starts killing, you say, okay, fine, kill me. No, you're gonna get, it's a war.
And you know, this whole thing was started very, very dramatically. When you look back in the hindsight, you can connect the dots very dramatically. It started the big thing which caught attention of almost all of the political scenario in Kashmir was in India, was Rubaya Said, the then on this Home Minister Mufti Muhammad Said's daughter, who was a doctor by profession. She was kidnapped.
1989.
Which
I
was
can't forget
just
it. I
a show.
reported the time.
It was just an orchestrated show that Congress, along with National Conference, played really well. And guess what? All the Kashmiri Pandits that were in the valley at that time, they did the protests that a daughter of Kashmir cannot be abducted like this.
Yes.
Kashmiri Pandits, little did they know that this is just an eyewash, because next are your daughters. Well, she was Rubaya Sayed. She was Mufti Muhammad Said's daughter. So she got the full media attention. But that is where the media attention stopped. After that, how many women, how many daughters, and how many daughter-in-laws, how many wives and mothers were kidnapped, brutally raped? Their breasts, they would cut their breasts while they were alive. Killing a pregnant, gang raping a pregnant woman. And after gang raping her, cutting her open and taking her child out of her womb. What are you talking about? And you expect these people who have no idea what's happening.
No, please stop.
You expect these people to say something? I don't care. Don't say anything. Don't. And you know, some people, if we look at them, if somebody has to say something, if somebody really has humanity inside living within them, if somebody has really some sensitivity and truthfulness, they cannot stop themselves from speaking out, because this is to the very core of human nature. It is not because I am a Kashmiri Pandit, I feel pain more, and you are not, you won't feel it. No, we all will feel that pain equally.
Honesty feels it, hypocrisy never.
Exactly. Exactly. We are busy here teaching our kids how to be civilized, even in the most hostile situations. Not even one Kashmiri Pandit, Kashmiri Hindu, picked up arms. Why? They don't have food to eat. They don't have place to live. In 100-degree Fahrenheit, we are living in the tents with somebody giving them, like, as Abhinavji said, 600. I don't know what was the relief amount that was given. Actually, when I was doing my law, there was Abdul Salam Bhatt, who he was, I think, HOD of Kashmir Law University. And in one of our finals, he was, he came as, you know, they come as the externals who basically rank you and who ask you questions. You have to pass that test. And he, Abdul Salam Bhatt, actually questioned me that, oh, you should be happy that your community got free money, free food, and free everything. I actually replied to him, and in front of all the panel of teachers, that, you know, if you think it is so convenient, I will, I think he's, at that time he mentioned you are getting 1,000 rupees per month. I said, I will give you 5,000 rupees per month. And I will actually provide you with cooler. so that you can live with this tent. Can you please bring all your family, your parents, your wife, your daughters, and your
One tent.
sons, and
One
live
tent.
in that tent for 1 month? If you like it, I will increase your relief to 10,000 rupees. But you have to continue living like that, living like it. He had no words.
And Renuji, that's exactly what was not known to the world. That's exactly they did not realize,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And this is what, as after so many years, the movie is kind of a projection of that. So I would request through this medium, as well as to Kashmiri Muslims as well, please come forward. Forget about that narrative that was told to you, the story, the false narrative that was told. See this. This is a real story. Every inch, every line of the story is true.
Every
It is
single
not.
line speaks in that movie.
Please come forward. Please watch it, and then you will know, and then you decide, and you take the call. If you have some
Actually,
humanity,
it is,
time you look
if
at that
if somebody's ancestors have made a mistake, they were not part of it, they should go see that in the mirror and get the true image, and should apologize on their behalf if they're honest, if they are sincere, if they have dignity. But that is what is missing, because what we teach, the Sanatan teaches the kids, is a total different. What the Islam teaches to the kids are very different, because they are still rebel and they are still being radicalized, and then talking about this is all like, oh, this is just one side. How could that be? I mean, like, how
See,
could that?
I have a
And playing a victim card always,
yeah.
by the means like a people, those who are to be blamed for it, that is becoming a trend in today's time, and I don't buy that.
I have a little bit different opinion here. There was a time when still Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiri Muslims there was still a lot of harmony before they were coexisting, I should say, before the terrorism hit us this time, 32 years ago. Because there is a very interesting shift that has, if I closely follow Kashmir still. I regularly visit Kashmir, and it is very interesting the way Kashmiri Muslim has gradually changed the way they look at life, and Hindus and Kashmiri Pandits. You'll be surprised. You go to Kashmir and people, there are little kids on the streets. They will come and ask you, "Oh, where are you from?" And you tell them, "Oh, I'm from India." No, they will actually ask you, "Are you from India?" And they're like, I'm like, yeah, but we are still in India. I am from Kashmir. So the point is that those little kids have no idea. They already think India is different and Kashmir is different, because there is the shift in the way Islam has been working now. Earlier, what coexisted was Sufi Islam, Sufism. Along it gelled very well with Kashmiri community. You will be surprised that there are dargahs in Kashmir. Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, or anybody were equally a visitor in that dargah as much as any Muslim would be, because that was Sufism, Sufi Islam. But now what we say, this terrorism is Wahhabi Islam. They have I think they have deviated way too much from the real Islam. I don't think anywhere, and even in Islam, they will say that you throw away people from their homes, you kill them because you want to take them, you destroy the history, you wipe out the history. I don't think that is there. I haven't read any Islamic book, but that is, as a human, you can think that nobody will actually tell somebody to go kill because you are a Muslim. Similarly, in this movie, the role that Pallavi ji has played, it is a very interesting and very beautifully done role. Why?
Hum dekhenge.
Why? Because Pallavi portrays
just like genuine.
Secular, yes. Pallavi portrays the secular and those names that have Hindu somewhere in them, but they are not Hindus in real life. And again, I want to emphasize, I am not talking about just Hindus and Muslims. I am only talking about right and wrong, just and unjust, killing and not killing.
But Renuji, sorry, one point just I want to add. We like person who are Sanatani Hindus should not go in that trap of narrative in the name of humanity or in the name of so-called secularism
Only
created by
awareness.
so that Prime Minister Indira